On average, 3 babies are abandoned in Gauteng every day. A question that arises is what drives young moms to dump their newborns, and what should we do to avoid finding ourselves in such situations? Well, joining me in studio to unpack this further is adoption social worker Judith Rungani. Joining us via Skype is Shahida Omar, the director of Teddy Bear Clinic, and joining us over the phone line is Marentia Scott, who is the founder of Al Shamar Home for Abandoned Babies. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, you deal with adoption more predominantly. Just talk to us about the adoption process and what drives people to actually go the adoption route.
Okay, there are different reasons. Some they come to adopt because they cannot have children of their own, and others they come to expand their families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people who actually give their babies up for adoption, talk to us about them. What reasons drive them to actually giving their babies up for adoption?
Okay, some you find that they have extramarital affairs, and others it's because they do not have the financial means to look after their children, and others they conceive the children through means which traumatize them. Like you find they've been raped, or they were forced into a marriage which they didn't want, and they ran away with their pregnancies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Shahida, very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. Just talk to us as the Teddy Bear Foundation. What are the kind of numbers of children you get left at your doorstep on a monthly basis?
Well, we don't deal directly with babies being left at our doorstep, but we work indirectly with victims where mothers or young teenage mothers have found themselves in those kind of situations. So if we're looking on average, yes, I think looking at least 2 or 3 mothers presenting with that kind of challenge. So that is the kind of statistic, but I think what my learned colleague highlighted so beautifully is that what we find is that a lot of young and younger mothers, and we're looking at teenage pregnancies where it's unwanted, unplanned for, the social stigma attached to that, the fear behind being found out, and the reality of knowing that they would not be able to provide for that baby, knowing fully well that they will not receive support from the family, or that the biological father has gone AWOL, absent without leave, or has paternity to the baby. I think these are the ground which contributes to mothers abandoning their babies. And unfortunately, a lot of these mothers are driven purely, and also that adoption, abortion is not acceptable option to pursue due to ancestral beliefs, culture, and traditional beliefs. So this is what we find prevalent in our case studies.
Mm-hmm. Now, just coming to you, Marentia, just talk to us about some of the children that you have to deal with at your home for abandoned children.
Okay, we deal mostly with babies. Babies come to us as young as 3 days old. Some of them are found in the most precarious positions. They are found in dustbins. Some mothers leave them on the south, and others leave them at the hospitals. And these babies, when they come to us, it's very, very, very sad that they cry non-stop for the first 2 weeks when they are with us. We have obviously very, very competent and very good staff because obviously the baby was used to the comfort of the mom, having the mom around. After her giving birth to the baby is pushed into this big bad world, and then the safety net, the mother disappears. So the baby, as young as they are, they don't understand what is going on, and our responsibility is to nurture and to love that baby as if they are our own.
Mm-hmm. And just coming to you, Judith, just talk to us and some of our viewers who might perhaps be considering the adoption option, whether to adopt a baby or to give up their baby for adoption. What process do they have to go through legally?
Okay, if they want to adopt, they have to come to Joburg Child Welfare, or they can call us. And the screening process, we initially call them for an orientation session, which is on a Saturday, where we get to have a group session with them, and we tell them the whole process of adoption, which includes doing the medical assessments, the psychological assessments, and also the interviews which we do as social workers to prepare the parents to take care of a child which they didn't give birth to.
And Shahida, just coming to you, some of the mothers that you deal with who are in situations where they don't really have the capacity to take care of their children, do you have any situations where later on the mothers come back and actually want to reconnect with babies that they gave up?
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay.
I think it's, in our situation, it is often the guilt that they react with. Often it's afterwards realizing the loss and the inability to come to terms with actually giving up something that is a part of themselves. And that is what we often have to deal with, because the underlying negative effects or the side effects of giving up a baby, knowing fully well that it is something they didn't want to do, but yet because of the situation were forced to do. So we have to deal with a lot of unresolved issues, working with sometimes depression and also the multiple losses and the feeling of wanting back, but knowing that it's done and dusted. They cannot actually get back what they've given, but always that question of where is that child, what does the child look like, what if the child was with me, what would it be like? So there's always unanswered questions, unfinished business, and there's no closure. I think the important thing to dwell here is that they struggle with closure, because for the rest of their life they're always faced or haunted with that image of giving up that baby and the full realization that they gave up because they were not able to keep the baby, and in hindsight would like to have contact with their baby, but unfortunately that is not always the case.
Judith, you want to add to that, the comment there? And also, can I just ask a question regarding adoption? When a person gives their baby up for adoption, are you allowed to have contact with that child, or do you just sign them off completely to the parents who are adopting them?
So the parents have options. They can ask to have contact with the child, or some parents do not want to have contact with the child altogether. So those who want to have contact, we facilitate the contact between the adoptive parents and the parents. So it can be through letters up to the age when the child is 18 or above 18. So it's basically, we are the ones who facilitate. They cannot have contact on their own.
So it has to be through the adoption agency. And you mentioned through letters. Are they allowed to see the child physically, or only after the age of 18? What are the technicalities there?
Yeah, it's after the age of 18, but they can communicate through letters.
And you also find some parents, as Shahiza actually mentioned, who actually come back and say, look, I know that I said I don't want to see my child ever again, but I actually want to get in touch with them. I want to know where they are and how they're doing.
So we have to do counseling if they come back to check if the child is prepared to meet the parent, because they might say, I do not want to see the parent when they are over the age of 18. So it's a two-way situation. And
just coming to you, Marentia, in what ways can people actually reduce the likelihood of having a child unplanned, or being in a position where you're forced to let go of your child?
Well, I think better education at school, prevention. It's all about just informing young mothers out there, because most of the time it's young mothers abandoning the children. So giving them more community service, I would say, from the school point of view. And the Department of Education really coming in there with Department of Health, prevent, I would say. But just to, if these youngsters, if they could do community service at places of safety and see what abandonment does to the babies, not only to them as mothers, because for the rest of the baby's life, that he doesn't know or she doesn't know where they come from or where they fit in, so they are always left with that void. So I would say educate them on the importance of abstaining or safe sex.
And what about society, Judith? Actually, the stigma that's attached with having a child out of wedlock or having a child at a very young age, do you think that perhaps even the adults, the parents themselves of these young mothers have to also be educated?
Not really. I don't think they really have to be educated for them to consent or abandon. Yeah.
I mean, if you have a child who who falls pregnant as a teenager,
yes.
most times the teenage mothers actually give up their babies because they're scared to face their parents, or abandon their babies because of the stigma or the pressure that the family puts on them. I'm talking about socially actually teaching the families to understand that it might have been a mistake that the child had the baby. They could have been raped, like Shahida mentioned, that, as parents in the society accepting these children.
Yeah, I think lately we're really working hard on educating the families, because the numbers of abandonment have actually dropped. When I started working at Joburg Child Welfare, we had high numbers of abandoned babies. Mm-hmm. But lately now we find that they come to consent, which means the society, the stigma is changing. They know that if they cannot look after the children, they can come and sign. And the families, when we conduct them, they can tell you, you know what, it's fine for the baby to be adopted because we're not ready to look after the child. And I think we still have to do more to educate the society that they don't have to throw away the children. They can bring them to us, and we can give them to families who need children.
Shahida, can you just give us your closing comments, including contact details for some of our viewers who might actually need your services?
Certainly. I think what is important to also express for the viewers to realize and appreciate is that often, because of interracial sexual relationships where unwanted babies are born, that's another stigma. We're looking at differences in culture, differences in races, differences in religion, and that in itself is quite a stigma if we look at indigenous population groups. And I'm speaking specifically from, say, the Jewish faith, Islamic faith, the Hindu faith, Christian faith, and if there's cross relationships, this would also influence the abandonment and the forced adoption. So I think this is something that one needs to realize, that this is a huge stigma, and of course it's not acceptable if we look at different cultural groups, and education is vital, because the more we engage in dialogue, the more people will be informed, and of course will be in a more suitable position to make positive choices. And on that note, I would just like to leave our contact numbers. It's 011 484 4554 or 4539, or there's 011 481 5118.
Well, thank you. And now over to you, Marentia, for your closing comments and contact details of the Al Shamar Home for Abandoned Children.
I know that speaking from a place of safety, speaking basically on behalf of the many abandoned babies out there, I would ask mothers that are in awkward positions at the moment, that are pregnant and who's thinking of abandoning their child, don't do it. You're not only ruining your life, but you're ruining the life of a little person that could be great one day. Our contact details are 011 054 0530 or 074 942 1297.
Thank you very much. And lastly to you, Judith, your closing comments and contact details.
Okay, if there is a mother who's stuck and who wants to get help with their situation, and when you do not want your child, please contact Joburg Child Welfare at 011 298 8500 or adoptions@jhpchildwelfare.co.za.
Thank you very much to our esteemed panel for joining us this evening, and to our viewers who are watching tonight. If you are not ready to have a child, please don't do it. But if you find yourself in that situation, there is help available out there, so don't despair. Thank you so much.